And next up, we have Eric Jackson telling us about what PayPal's history tells us about crypto's future. Eric M. Jackson is a tech executive and serial entrepreneur who played a critical role in building PayPal and subsequently created multiple successful businesses. Jason is part of the so-called PayPal Mafia, as well as an award-winning author of The PayPal Wars and a sought-after speaker with a strong media presence. During his time at PayPal, the company grew from 2,500 users to 25 million, went public, and was acquired by eBay. Following PayPal, Jackson founded a venture called World Ahead Media, which he grew to profitability before it was acquired in 2008. Currently, he's the CEO and co-founder of CapLinked, a venture-backed tech company that develops cloud-based information control software, as well as co-founder and CEO of TransitNet, the world's first crypto title registry. I've been hearing about crypto titles for a long time. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'll pass the mic off to you.
Thank you, Tatiana. It's great to be here. I have some slides too that I think will make this a little more interesting if we're able to pull those up. Great. Thank you. So we'll just jump right in to get us back on schedule here. I've got three major themes from PayPal's history that we're going to look at. I think they parallel challenges that crypto entrepreneurs are facing. You just heard about my background, so I won't spend too much time on this, other than to say I've been in tech for 2 decades, and so you know, that's a kind of a lifetime, I guess. I've seen a lot, and I was recruited by Peter Thiel to join PayPal about a year after graduating Stanford. So that was very early in my career. And while I was at PayPal, I oversaw product marketing and implemented the company's revenue model. So we'll talk further about the project I'm currently working on, TransitNet, a crypto title registry, a little bit later. I'll mention that as we wrap up. But let's get on to the interesting account here that I know everyone is curious to learn more about. So I think it's good to begin with a little bit of context. That PayPal had this very big vision early in its founding, and it was quite audacious, actually. That we wanted to empower people. That payments could mean greater independence and freedom if you're actually able to give people more control over their money and the ability to move their money. Now, the backdrop's important. This was back in the late 90s. That was a period of a lot of economic upheaval, and in particular, currency contagion. There was a problem that spread around the world to a lot of countries: Mexico, Russia, Southeast Asia, much of South America. This issue where there were massive currency devaluations and inflation as a result. And it came because primarily countries were trying to control their exchange rates and interest rates. You can't do both. You choose one, but not both. And when these pressures began to build up to these countries, it often lock people's savings in their bank accounts. They'd limit withdrawals. Well, if inflation got uncorked, you know what that means. It's actually a massive tax. It erodes the value of people's savings, and in some cases was quite awful and decimated the purchasing power of the savings people had worked to accumulate over their lives. So we saw PayPal as a way to take that power away from governments and give it back to the people. That we could actually empower them and give them control and avoid those kind of awful scenarios. Now, PayPal was actually created by two companies: Peter Thiel's company Confinity, that he and Max Levchin had started, and Elon Musk had started an online bank called X.com. Those two companies merged back around March, April of 2000, if you can believe that. Now, what we're going to see in PayPal's story, though, is that there are limits to what you can do with a centralized platform. And we're going to take a look at the top 3 challenges now that PayPal faced, and then, of course, link it back to what some of the challenges that crypto entrepreneurs have to face as they're trying to build out technology today. So first, we'll talk briefly about the business model. That actually seems obvious, but is a major problem. PayPal launched with this vision of being this free P2P service, person-to-person payments. And in fact, we had always free all over the website. It was online. You have an online account, but also we had a lot of focus on Palm Pilots. It seems kind of quaint and antiquated now, but looking back, it seemed actually forward-looking. But Palms at that point didn't have any cell phone connection. They weren't mobile, really. You had to sync them manually in a cradle to your computer. But we thought that this would actually be quite powerful for people to serve, a variety of use cases: splitting a lunch bill or reimbursing a roommate for expenses or what have you. But it turned out that actually wasn't the best model, both the platform and the focus on the audience. So we pivoted. We saw that SMBs, small businesses, on eBay were actually using the product quite a lot, as well as other decentralized marketplaces. There was no payment solution. People had to send a check in the mail or cash sometimes. So we pivoted, we ditched the Palm, we focused on the web. And all this happened, though, at a time when the market actually began to crash. So this may sound a little deja vu to people from today, but the NASDAQ had reached high peaks and then plummeted, lost half its value in just a matter of weeks back in the first half of 2000. And that really put us in a difficult position. We built this as a service that we marketed as always free. We said that we'd make money off the float. And we thought that there'd be enough money sort of recirculating inside PayPal with interest rates 7-8% that we could just live off of that. Well, those assumptions were totally wrong. Interest rates came down dramatically as the market crashed. And then likewise, money didn't really stay inside PayPal. It kind of, for these merchant transactions, go in, to the merchant would take it out to go buy inventory or whatever they were doing to run their business. So we had to implement a new business model with a transactional revenue model, which I mentioned was something that I was put in charge of. Now, this process actually was so contentious that it cost Elon his job as CEO. Elon was running the combined companies for a little while after the merger, and there actually was so much debate over how to do this and how to solve this existential problem that it ended up causing the board to change direction. Now, Peter Thiel would eventually step into that job. I wrote at length about that in my book, The PayPal Wars. But when you think about Elon today, it's kind of hard to believe that. But that's how difficult and contentious this process was to build a business model. The second item that I'll bring up is relevant to crypto entrepreneurs and crypto founders today is fraud. Now, fraud nearly sunk PayPal. I can't overstate just how almost ruinous it was. And fraud hit PayPal on multiple fronts. We had disputed transactions that left PayPal liable. So like if you had a fraudulent seller on eBay or just some dispute, if a buyer who used a credit card wanted to charge back, then PayPal was left being the party of record and had to pay for that. There was account theft. Phishing was just beginning back in those days. It's kind of a new phenomenon, and a lot of users were unaware. And then maybe most interesting, most colorful of all, we had organized crime rings coming after PayPal, and they were cashing in on credit card numbers that they'd stolen and purchased from the black market. Now, they weren't hacking. They didn't crack PayPal's encryption or anything like that. They actually walked in through an open door. So in some ways, that's worse. Because it's so easy to use PayPal, they would use automated systems to make accounts, register these stolen credit card numbers, and then send a couple of payments and then wire the money out of the system. Fraud got so bad, it peaked well above 100 basis points of our payment volume. I think it's actually like 120 basis points. So it's kind of a crazy, like for every $100, $1.20 was fraudulent. So it just shows you what a problem it was for money moving around the system. And there's this huge, huge cost to PayPal at a point when, of course, markets were crashing and it was harder to raise money. So we fought back on it with a multifaceted approach. Max Levchin, as many of you will know, was the CTO. He led those efforts. He and his team built Igor, which was named after a Russian fraudster that had taunted Max and emailed with him a lot and kind of almost provided a bit of an education through his taunts about how he was avoiding Max's fraud efforts. So we built a system that was kind of a predecessor for Palantir that would allow visualization of how payments were moving so they could catch fraudsters. CAPTCHA, we actually built one of the earliest versions of CAPTCHA that I'm aware of. We called it the Gauss-Levchin test, which was like a reverse Turing test to capture or differentiate between a human and a machine. And then we also had withdrawal limits to make it harder to get money out of the system. All these things helped reduce fraud. We drove it down significantly, cut it by about 80% from its peak. And then the final item I'll mention is kind of like a massive challenge that was in PayPal's history, but also I think is very pertinent for any crypto entrepreneurs: regulation. Success draws scrutiny. And in the early days when PayPal was getting started, that first, those early months, that first year, nobody really cared because nobody was paying attention. But then it's as you pick up speed and get success, get market share, that's when regulators notice you. And we saw this in particular, it really accelerated as the company moved toward an IPO in early 2002. Regulators came at the company from all sides. They struggled with trying to figure out what PayPal was. And that seems strange now that PayPal's, this kind of fuddy-duddy, antiquated, largest fintech company in the world, but they didn't know what to classify it. we really wanted to avoid being classified as a bank. That would have been disastrous for many reasons, including all the, not just the regulations, but all the capital requirements. We weren't investing people's deposits into mortgages and paying for, homes and stuff. We were just facilitating payments. So it would have been a mismatch. But figuring out what that classification was quite challenging. And then we just had a lot of ad hoc trouble from regulators. Louisiana banned PayPal from the entire state for a minute there. They only relented when we published the phone number for the regulatory agency, so residents of the state could call and complain, and melted down their switchboard and made them change course. Then New York's then Attorney General Elliot Spitzer also came after the company back in 2002. So we had a lot of high-profile skirmishes with regulators, and eventually we got the company classified as a money transmission service, but that was regulated state by state. I think there were like 30 or 35 states that had money transmitter laws on the books. So you can imagine what compliance looked like having to deal with that. All these things led to sort of an inevitable outcome. And like the old saying goes, if you aim for the stars and if you miss, you'll land on the moon. I think that actually describes exactly what happened with PayPal. The cumulative effect of all these risks, coupled with the real strong need to diversify our use case and build our business around, other options besides just eBay, ultimately resulted in the company agreeing to be acquired by eBay. So this was after our first IPO. eBay bought the company. I think it was October of 2002 is when that deal closed. And this ultimately, I think, solidified PayPal's identity as an e-commerce service. And make no mistake, it's a great company as far as companies go. It's the biggest fintech company in the world, but we didn't achieve that original vision that I laid out. We had to settle in part because of just the accumulation of all the risk and challenges that PayPal faced. So what does that mean, for this talk, for this subject? I'll start by saying that I think it's impossible not to see crypto as having that ability, that potential to fulfill PayPal's original vision, that vision of empowering people with greater control over their money and their payments. But a lot of these themes that we just explored from PayPal's history are extremely relevant to companies and projects that are trying to build crypto today. And I think, whether that's building a compelling and scalable business model, the attraction of fraud and criminals, and the regulatory scrutiny, those are all exactly what crypto entrepreneurs are having to navigate today. And I think every day you can see headlines on a CoinDesk and other publications that are talking about just that. So this, in some sense, the past is prologue, and it really does reflect what we're seeing in this industry. Those challenges that ultimately, I won't say brought down PayPal, but kept it from achieving that full potential, are going to have to be navigated by crypto as entrepreneurs go out and build new projects and build an ecosystem to make crypto compelling and hopefully have that chance to fulfill this vision. Now, speaking of infrastructure, I'll just add a quick note about my own company, TransitNet. As I noted earlier, we're building an optional off-chain title registry. And we think that title is going to be a key piece of infrastructure for crypto that increases both its security and its usefulness. So being able to confirm ownership, verify with the counterparty that you're transacting with, who it is on the other side of a wallet, being able to have greater utility of your crypto, maybe over the longer term, being able to increase the ability to use crypto that's in self-hosted wallets for financial transactions, like as collateral or proof of reserve. All of these things we see as being really exciting opportunities that can be unlocked by off-chain title registry. So that's what we're building at TransitNet. We currently have an alpha program that's up and running. I would invite anyone that's interested to come over and visit us at our site, transitnet.io. You could sign up to participate in the alpha program and otherwise follow us and get our updates. Also, you can follow me on Twitter, Eric M. Jackson. I've always got things to say. Obviously, don't hold back on sharing my insights and opinions such that it work. So that's all. I think we got it down to about just over 10 minutes. So thank you so much for the chance to be here today. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk a little bit about PayPal's past, hopefully shed some light on the challenges that crypto entrepreneurs have to overcome in order to achieve the potential that they're setting out to achieve and to build.
Thanks so much, Eric. We really appreciate your time. That was great to hear a little bit of that background.
Great. Thank
We'll
you.
see you next time. Bye now.
Thanks.